the impulse to do caregiving is usually born of love for someone, or at least respect or a sense of duty. And that often gets everything else really twisty, because you will set aside your own needs because you love someone any day of the week. That will happen. Made that kind of commitment to someone. And yet the rational side of you may be saying, you really need a good 10 hours of sleep tonight to make up for the last 2 weeks. And the rational side gets just pushed aside by the love when you're worried because no one else will stay up all night to make sure this person doesn't wander.
Are there certain things that we can do if we find ourselves in that situation as a caregiver for a family member to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves? As you said, it's more than just a bubble bath.
Yeah, I think as with any job, I've been a manager and I've done a lot of other kinds of work. If you are overwhelmed, you need to figure out how to delegate. And very often when people call me and say, what should I do? My first thought is, well, have you called the county where you live to see if there are any services available? Because you might be surprised. There might be a bus. There might be a daycare situation. There might be all kinds of things that you haven't explored. And some people are too proud to accept those. My dad did not want to ride on the county bus to go to the temple or to go anywhere else. So he wanted me to take him everywhere. So that was a little frustrating, but in certain circumstances, you're going to need to have those support systems available. Sometimes they're not good. So it varies from county to county, and they all have to put their money where they feel the financial need is the greatest. So depends on your circumstances. They're often economically related. So there's that. You can also put together a contract with your family. If this is a family member and there are other people, you can say, well, here's what I'm willing to do. How are we going to cover these other areas? So I'm actually publishing a Substack newsletter on what I call non-negotiables for caregivers. So and what I'm trying to do is cover things like delegation and communication and flexibility and the respite time that you and I were just speaking about, that those should be announced up in advance. If you're saying, yes, I'll be the main caregiver, you still need to get an agreement from the others about how all these things will be covered if you can't hold up or you can't do everything every day. If it's been estimated that probably a caregiver has to deal with 20 systems, 17 to 20 systems every day, such things as medication, nutrition, medical appointments, physical therapy, and so on. And if you just have 5 or 10 tasks for each of those, that's 100 tasks every day that you have to do before you even get to when am I going to have breakfast. You have to figure all those things out for the other person before you take care of your own needs. So it's really important to think upfront about who are you going to delegate to and who is your backup, because you will need time off if you're going to survive. And the reason I say that is that among elder caregivers especially, your chance of dying before the person you're caring for is 60% or more greater than the rest of the population, because you will probably encounter a disease such as diabetes, hypertension, or heart disease because of the stress of caregiving. I'm not saying it causes diabetes, but it certainly would accelerate it. So I have, in fact, that was part of my own story. After my father died, I learned that I had diabetes, and I don't think caring for him for a couple of months caused it, or taking care of all the rest of their business for 2 years caused it. But the stress of all that with no help certainly accelerated all of it. So people don't necessarily die from caregiving, but all of those unhealthy conditions start around middle age. They're around 45 or so. And that's where we start to begin the consequences of not taking care of ourselves, or see the consequences.